As police continue their investigation into 4 Markham murders, we are learning the man charged in the deaths may have sent online messages about a murder plot months ago. As the scale of the killings sinks in, the mayor of Markham says the city is in shock tonight, and friends and family of the victims are now raising money to help pay for their funerals. Angelina King joins us live from the crime scene in Markham. Angelina, some new details emerging tonight about whether there were missed opportunities here to prevent this tragedy.
Yeah, exactly. So yesterday we told you about some pretty disturbing messages posted online to a gaming forum by someone using the username Minhaz. That person said that they had slaughtered their family. And tonight we're learning that that same user posted other violent messages, but 4 months ago. Tonight we're also learning more about the family that was killed. Friends and family are mourning the victims today. Someone has left some flowers across the street right near the house, which is still a crime scene. A family killed, a community in shock, a son accused of murder. 23-year-old Minhaz Zaman is charged with first counts of first-degree murder. Police have not identified the victims, but those who knew the family believe they are his parents, sister, and grandmother. His sister Melissa is being remembered on a GoFundMe page for having a big heart, always listening and helping others. The page is raising money for funeral costs in Ontario and in their home country of Bangladesh. Her friend Sanisha Lalani says Melissa loved her brother.
Honestly, she was the kindest person I've known. She would never, ever give anybody a bad time. Honestly, she had it really bad in life, but she was the happiness for other people.
Minhaz's dad, Monarez, worked as a taxi driver. Beck Taxi says he worked there since 2011, saying in a statement, "It's an extremely shocking and sad time. We're devastated to hear about what has happened, and our thoughts are with their family and friends." Markham Mayor Frank Scarpiti calls the killings horrific.
Just in talking with some of the neighbors, they understand that this does not reflect what this community is about. They understand, given different reports that they've heard in the media, that this is an isolated incident and something that is a very tragic event. And I think some of them are asking, could something have happened that would have prevented this tragedy?
Online messages sent Saturday night from the username Minhaz paints a picture. He wrote about killing his family, dropping out of university, and being depressed. "I wanted them to die so they didn't suffer knowing how much of a pathetic subhuman I was. It's all very selfish," he wrote. 4 months before that, the same account wrote this: "Gonna kill my parents and go to jail, yo." 2 people part of this online gaming network have known the user for years and say it is Minhaz Zaman. Police have not confirmed that, but it all raises questions about who bears responsibility to act when someone sends violent messages online. This Ryerson University professor says the onus is on companies that run the services to monitor their platforms, but it's complicated.
It's not easy to say that we want companies to deal with this. It might be incredibly expensive to do. Companies want to move to an algorithmic way, trying to do this in an automated way, maybe by scanning for words or trying to identify things in video posts.
So he says that gamers aren't mental health professionals, and if you see any type of concerning behavior online, the best thing to do is to try and link that person with a mental health professional. Now, the game the users were playing is called Perfect World Void. The administrator of the game says that it was actually the users who contacted and alerted police. The administrator also says that people on the forum didn't consider that Minhaz profile as a threat. Now, we also know that they say going forward they are going to be more strict, going to censor certain words that would consider harm, words like murder, and they will also reach out to any profiles of people that seem like they might be depressed. Now, we just heard from Discord. That's the platform the messages were sent on. We just got a statement just seconds ago. It says that it prohibits certain behavior and takes action against any violations of the terms. They would maybe shut down a user's profile or ban them. In this particular case, Discord says that it is working with police.
Angelina, thank you. Paramedics rushed to treat more than a dozen children this afternoon at a splash pad in Burlington after an accidental chlorine spill. Mike Wise is following the story for us and joins us with the latest. Mike.
Oh, Dwight, this happened around 2 o'clock at LaSalle Park. That's near Plains Road in Waterdown. There's a pool and a splash pad there. We're told there may have been a day camp visiting at the time. Paramedics say when they arrived, they examined 14 children, all between the ages of 4 and 7. They were complaining of inhaling a chemical. They had nausea, some were vomiting, and also had what paramedics described as decreased levels of consciousness. Now, police officials quickly looked for the cause of all of this.
It's very preliminary at this time. It appears that there was some type of inadvertent chemical injection of chlorine into the pool. I've been told that the pool is deemed safe now.
Now, ambulances took a total of 7 children to hospital. 6 of them went to Joseph Brant in Burlington. They were in minor condition. 1 child, though, had to be taken to Hamilton's McMaster Hospital in more serious condition. Dwight?
Thanks, Mike.
It's a case that's so well known, police say they're still receiving tips 34 years later.
This case has not been forgotten in Toronto. It's never been forgotten in Toronto since this happened.
I'm Talia Ricci, and coming up, an age-enhanced photo is the latest appeal to the public in the 1985 disappearance of 8-year-old Nicole Moran.
Despite a handful of confirmed sightings across 4 western provinces, the exact whereabouts of a pair of BC teens wanted for murder remains a mystery. Police say the teens are suspects in the murders of 3 people and they should not be approached. A sighting about 90 kilometers from Gillam, initially deemed credible, turned up nothing, and the extra members of the police service brought in have now regrouped in the Gillam area. The last confirmed sighting was 8 days ago in northern Manitoba. A day before that, shortly before they were named suspects, an Alberta man helped tow their vehicle out of a muddy field. It's an experience Tommy St. Croix now calls surreal. He told the story today to CBC Radio North.
As I'm pulling up, I see the 2 boys. They're out of the car, doors open, or driver and passenger. And I think I first asked if they called anybody. And I remember Cam replying, no, we didn't. By then, they've been there probably an hour and a half already. It was about 11 o'clock. I asked them, I'm like, geez, you guys, well, I was assessing the situation. So I asked them, I'm like, so this is, Mom and Dad's going to be pissed. And Cam and Briar, they both look at me, and Cam looks and he says, no, Mom and Dad told me to go for a long joyride. So we chuckled. They weren't talkative. They were more listening. You could tell that they were nervous. That's why when I pulled up to them, they looked young, right? So that's why I said, hey, this is Mom and Dad's SUV. You better clean it when I get you out, right? So anyways, I get them out, and that's when I go to introduce myself and shake their hands, and they both gave me their real names, which really, really surprised me for the kind of situation they were in, right?
But you didn't know that at the time, right?
I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that. And I didn't find out till Tuesday evening. I'm looking on social media. As soon as I seen their faces, I'm like, oh my God. I couldn't believe it. My jaw dropped. My personal opinion is that they seem like good raised kids. They were polite with me. They, if they really, really wanted me, I could be dead. They had the opportunity to grab a truck. I was alone with them. I was on, behind the SUV tying it up, and they had pretty much a brand new truck to take off with. My wallet was in there, everything, but they didn't.
We have complete coverage of the manhunt in Manitoba and a map of the area. RCMP officers are back searching near Gillam. You can find it all at cbcnews.ca. Even though more than 3 decades have passed, Toronto police say the case of Nicole Moran is still on their minds. It was 1985 when the then 8-year-old girl left her apartment on the West Mall in Etobicoke. Tonight, the Missing Persons Unit has released an age-enhanced image of Nicole, hoping there's still a chance they might find her. Talia Ricci has more.
A new image.
But it's a matter of getting that right tip that's going to lead us to where we need to be to resolve this case.
Another appeal to the public.
I would appeal to anyone who knows the whereabouts of my daughter Nicole to please come forward.
And a reminder of the passage of time.
By releasing the photo, we certainly keep her top of mind, and I think keep her memory alive. And I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that one day we'll have the answers.
At 6 a.m. this morning, a full-scale search for Nicole Moran resumed.
It's all family and police ever wanted: answers. Melissa Elaschuk walked to school with Nicole Moran and looked up to her. Today, working for Toronto Police, she's reminded of losing her childhood best friend daily.
I have a newspaper cutout that I've kept with me all these years, and I keep it in my locker. And it's a constant reminder, obviously, of what might have happened to her. And we used to swim a lot together and hang out in front of the building on the grates. It was great, really good memories.
34 years later, police say this composite photo of what Moran might look like now won't match reality perfectly.
There's certain things that don't change, like their eye color, the shape of their nose, kind of the shape of the mouth, and their overall look.
They wait for the phone to ring.
Gallant reflects on resources that weren't at their disposal in 1985. Amber Alerts, effective surveillance video, social media. But now they're using modern tactics to try to crack the cold case. It's been years of paper flyers, reenactments, and media campaigns. And he says it's still worth it.
I get a number of tips pretty much every month on the Nicole Moran case, where people are phoning in or emailing in using Crime Stoppers, giving potential information.
Does it ever weigh on the minds of police that so much time has passed and that there hasn't been any breakthroughs?
Yes, it does. It's it's saddening to us that we haven't been able to locate her, haven't been able to reunite her with her family.
I think in a way it kind of shattered the innocence of society back then.
I think everybody who's ever seen that picture of 8-year-old Nicole always remembers it.
And the hope today is that someone, somewhere, may recognize who she might be now. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
This is massive. This is actually unprecedented in Canada.
Personal information on 6 million Canadians and 100 million Americans has been breached after Capital One was hacked. Coming up, more on who was behind it and why it's harder than ever to protect your data.
Unfortunately, many consumers have no longer access or control of their data once they deal with a particular institution. So consumers can, of course, be cautious and see who they're giving their data to, but once the data is residing on those servers with the institution, it's kind of out of our hands.
As is now often the case, all that rain we received overnight caused some flooding downtown. No major problems, but you can see vehicles at this underpass had to slow down. And we listened to Colette, so we didn't water the lawn or the garden last night, so we're good. I was paying attention. I didn't pull out the hose last night. I knew it was coming.
Yeah, I'm glad you did, because a friend of mine, a colleague of ours here at CBC, rode her bike in through that. As a matter of fact.
Pay attention to the forecast.
Yeah, you got to listen up. Let's go ahead and let me tell you all about what we can expect for the next few days, because we're really seeing some nice weather coming our way as we're getting a new air mass moving in and some quieter conditions. Now, we're still a little bit in the transition, although the winds have been shifting, so we're really making our way into this new air mass. 26 degrees right now. There's still some humidity. Remember, today's kind of the transition day, and then it gets a little more comfortable after this. So feeling like 33, that's the current humidex for us. And I just want to show you, it's very, very isolated in terms of the showers or thunderstorms that have popped up. And again, that was the forecast, that as we got into the afternoon and early evening hours, there would just be a few here and there. This one just south of Pickering, but the good news being that it's headed out over the lake. So, but that one just kind of blew up there in the last 20 minutes. And we're seeing that. The bigger picture, though, just shows a few little light spotty showers, a little more activity back towards southwestern Ontario. And as we go through the overnight, we get into kind of a clearing trend. and then more of a chance just towards southwestern Ontario, some isolated showers tomorrow earlier in the day, and then that should improve there. For the GTA, we're looking at a really nice day as we go into Wednesday. So 18 overnight tonight, 27, a couple of degrees you can add in terms of the humidity, so we'll put it at 30, but notice the winds are coming from a northerly direction. We're going to see that for several days. So it gets even cooler as we go towards Thursday, then heats up towards the weekend. I'll have all those details coming up, Dwight.
Carnival weekend. Thank you, Colette.
You got it.
A couple of guys came inside and told me that there's a snake. I wondered, I came outside and I saw the snake.
A shocking find at a gas station overnight. A python was seen coming out of a sewer grate. Its owner has now come forward, and you won't believe how long it's been missing. We'll have Monty the Python's reunion coming up. A downtown drugstore became a drive-through earlier today, but it was not planned. The Shoppers Drug Mart at Yonge and Carleton was extensively damaged after a man crashed his car into the store. Police say the man's vehicle hit several cars before hitting the store. The driver also struck a 50-year-old man near Bay and Gerrard. That person was taken to hospital with a head injury. A 31-year-old Toronto man is now facing a number of charges, including impaired driving causing bodily harm. 6 million Canadians have been caught up in a massive hack attack on Capital One. The financial services giant says the personal information of more than 100 million people has been compromised. It is potentially one of the biggest data breaches of a financial institution, and yet another warning to consumers of just how exposed we are to cyber theft. Jacqueline Hansen explains.
Credit cards are Capital One's specialty. Now,
I want to cancel my card, but it's just scary.
It proves that we're vulnerable.
In Canada alone, 6 million of its cardholders compromised. Names, addresses, birth dates swiped. And for 1 million Canadians, even social insurance numbers were taken.
With our social insurance number, it's like up in the air. Anybody could be out there using it.
FBI arrested the suspected hacker in Seattle. Paige A. Thompson, who goes by the handle Erratic online, boasted about the attack, posting, "I've basically strapped myself with a bomb vest," dropping Capital One's docs and admitting it. Thompson is a former employee of Amazon Web Services, a service used by Capital One. But court documents show it was a firewall misconfiguration or weakness that allegedly let the hacker break in.
I think one of the motives was, of course, she wanted to be known as the person that, accessed this information. She wanted to get the glorification of her expertise.
In a statement, Capital One CEO said, "I sincerely apologize for the understandable worry this incident must be causing those affected, and I am committed to making it right." It's unclear if any of the data has been shared or sold.
My gut feeling is that we actually will see some information floating up. We've seen this from other previous breaches, unfortunately. Literally within 48 hours, there's items for sale.
Capital One says it will provide credit monitoring, but some cardholders want companies and governments to be more proactive.
I hope it affects their profits, because that's the only way they're going to listen.
Just the latest company and cohort of Canadians to be caught up in a massive data breach and left to worry where their information will end up. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
You heard a bit there from cybersecurity expert Daniel Toback. I spoke more about the breach with Daniel and also about how hard it is to protect our data.
It's definitely another sad day here in Toronto when we learn about this new breach. I mean, we've been plagued by 3 major breaches over the past 12 months, so it's definitely not a very good day.
We live our lives online. We are banking online. How do we protect ourselves from something like this happening to 6 million Canadians?
It's a great question. It's becoming very difficult because unfortunately many consumers have no longer access or control of their data once they deal with a particular institution or a business, and that institution has your information. Really everything is directed towards that institution to protect your particular data. So consumers can of course be cautious and see who they're giving their data to, but once the data is residing on those servers with the institution, it's kind of out of our our hands.
But for me to do my banking, I need to have my information on that server because that's how we're being served
Absolutely.
in the industry these days.
Absolutely, not much choice. We really have to demand, I no longer say to ask, to demand assurance from those institutions that our information is properly safeguarded and compliance is verifying that. Now, people want, to be able to monetize any type of data that they have. And to give you just an example, when you look at 106 million records, even at $8 a pop, which is really one of the going rate for stolen records on the dark web, we're talking about close to $1 billion.
How do then the people that get this information use it?
There's criminal groups out there that have set up particular shops around the world. This is a global operation where they're able to take this data, conduct identity fraud, take a loan, take mortgages, buy other financial instruments, buy assets through their little network, and then they dump it out. And I mean, we have seen cases of people going to jail because of mistaken identity, because they've ranked up bills or they committed a crime with, for example, a gun that was registered to someone that is not them. I mean, this is a really big web of lies and a big operation. You have no control. The unfortunate part, even when you detect a suspicious activity that has to do with identity fraud and you try to deal with it, sometimes it's too late. Right, this is one of the problems. It's already done. Absolutely. And sometimes you're also not believed. When you call up and say, hey, this is something suspicious going on, not everybody can do something about it.
Who is responsible then in the end for protecting us? Do we protect ourselves? Are these institutions supposed to be doing more to protect our personal information?
So I believe the institutions should really be doing more when it comes to data protection. It's a bit out of our hands, unfortunately. I'm very sad to say that. We do have to demand that government steps in and provides new legislation to protect us as consumers. We can be cautious in checking our bills and monthly statements and not giving away additional information to strangers, either online or in person. But unfortunately, we do need something from a bigger side, from the government, to actually provide new compliance for this.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your thoughts on this.
Thank you.
People were out protesting across the province today. They are demanding the government reverse cuts to legal aid. I'm Ali Chiasson, live in Mississauga, and I'll have more on that fight coming up.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Legal clinics around Ontario rallied today, protesting provincial cuts to Legal Aid Ontario. In April, the PC slashed nearly 30% of the organization's budget. Ali Chiasson joins us live with more. And Ali, they are asking the government basically to have a change of heart here.
That's right, and it wouldn't be the first time that we see the province reverse course on an issue. Think all the way back to yesterday when they announced that they would be reevaluating changes to autism funding. Well, something like that gave a lot of people hope, like those who are attending meetings like this one here in Mississauga, where they're going to be talking about keeping legal aid strong. Have a listen.
Today's the day of action. Community legal clinics across Ontario marching to the same beat, chanting the same chants. Lives are at stake, they say.
People not having their voices heard in the courts, at the Landlord and Tenant Board, in the legislature, in the streets, where these clinics have really showed their ability to get things done for poor people.
In April, the Conservative government slashed nearly 30% of Legal Aid's budget, and the organization could no longer use provincial funds for refugee and immigration cases.
With the legal aid cut, it's not just about cut the services, it cuts the advocacy capacity, which is the most needed in our Chinese community.
The Chinese and South Asian Legal Clinic brought letters from their clients right to Premier Doug Ford's constituency office. Here's how that went.
All I can do is take the materials.
We are very concerned about the cuts in legal aid and its impact on our communities, whether it's Chinese, Black, South Asian
I don't want
workers.
to be recorded. Thank you very much. But I will take the material.
Raymond Cho, you can't be hiding.
Letters were brought to MPP Raymond Cho's office by clients of the Scarborough Community Legal Clinic.
I will put these letters of ours in his mailbox outside his door. It's more than insulting. It is creating and putting up a barrier between this government that he represents and the people that are here today.
And in Parkdale, it's almost moving day for Canada's oldest and largest legal aid clinic.
At the very present moment, we are having to lay off staff and to have reductions in hours and having to move to space that is inaccessible to the community.
The church basement they're moving into doesn't have an accessibility ramp for their clients with mobility issues.
We're asking Premier Doug Ford, as well as our Attorney General Doug Downey, community members, leaders, to say no. Say no. We believe these cuts are wrong, and to speak out and to ask for the reversal.
We are here legitimately to bring to his attention the dire needs of the community, the downtrodden as I.
So I actually just got a response from the Attorney General's office, Attorney General Doug Downey here. We asked for comment earlier in the day. They use the term modernization and say that they are with Ontario's dire fiscal situation, every available dollar is going to be dedicated to frontline services rather than outdated bureaucracies and unchecked windfalls for lawyers. So referring to the older system of legal aid Ontario there. So they said that they will be working with their partners to make things better and still serve the people. No mention, though, Dwight, of any reversal here. Yeah. I'll send it back to you.
This fight's not over yet. Thank you for that, Ali.
You got it.
An Essex County vineyard has come under fire over political donations made by the owner just weeks before the vineyard was featured on Ontario News Now.
Go out and buy a bottle of Peely Island wine. It's great, and it's coming to a convenience store close to you. We're here at Peely Island Winery.
The owner of Peely Island Winery donated approximately $2,000 to the PCs between February and July of this year. Weeks later, the government posted this video on Facebook and Twitter encouraging residents to purchase wines from the winery. The winery has since tweeted saying the company met with the Premier to discuss the future of the wine and grape industry in the province and apologized that this goal is not being focused on. It's World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, and the provincial government spent part of the day raising awareness of the issue.
Unfortunately, Ontario is a major hub for human trafficking, with nearly 2/3 of police reported violations in Canada occurring in this province.
If you see a young girl, a young boy
someone who is by themselves, who isn't necessarily with a family member, and you see any sort of suspicious activity, that's the sort of thing that we're trying to have people report on.
The victims of sex trafficking in Ontario are mostly young women and girls, with the average age of victims just 13 years old. Most are usually transported along the 400 series highways. The province is hoping to create more education when it comes to possible victims of trafficking. If you are a victim of trafficking or believe someone else might be, call the 24/7 Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline. That number, 1-833-900-1010.
A strange night for authorities getting a call for a python in a sewer grate. Turns out he's someone's pet, missing for more than a month. Coming up, we'll take you to their reunion just here behind us in Scarborough.
From snakes on a plane to a snake down a drain. It was a surprise for emergency crews last night when they received a call for a python coming out of a sewer grate at an East End gas station. They captured the snake, and we've now found out it's actually someone's missing pet. Taylor Simmons is live at the Toronto Animal Services out in Scarborough. And Taylor, the owner and the snake reunited tonight.
They did, and we just witnessed the sigh of relief coming from this owner as she came and picked up the snake here at Animal Services behind us just about an hour ago. She even brought some frozen rats along for the ride, figuring he might be hungry after his adventures. So I'll bring you to that reunion in just a second. But first, how this all happened. Police were called to an SO near Danforth and Victoria Park last night. Toronto Fire says they received the call just before midnight from someone saying they saw a snake's head poking out of a sewer grate. Not something you see every day. It turned out to be a 4.5-foot ball python, a non-venomous constrictor. Firefighters were able to remove it quickly, put it in a bag, and transfer it to Animal Services here. We spoke to the employee working at the SO last night.
Really, I was amazed to see that snake. But it's a good snake. Actually, it's a good size, and it's a small one too, not a big one. It's a python. It's a python snake, and I saw it. It's very beautiful.
And the snake's owner, Samantha Sinella, used that word too beautiful for the snake. It's actually owned by her 18-year-old son. They got it in September. It's almost 1 year old, and its name is actually Monty. So here's some video of her bringing him out of Animal Services today. He wasn't very camera friendly, showing why they're called ball pythons. He stayed all curled up. Clearly, he'd had enough adventure for now. But the backstory of his disappearance, he went missing after a party her son threw the night the Raptors won. So back in mid-June, she thinks someone may have opened his lid, but no one has fessed up yet. From there, they thought he might be hiding in the house, so they did everything they could to coax him out. Here's Samantha.
We went on a frantic search for him. We turned the air conditioner down super low because they like warmth. You had to put a heating pad on them, and then we put a heating pad on the floor to try to get it to come out, and a pail of water and all kinds of stuff, but we couldn't find him. And we suspected he was in the basement ceiling, but we didn't know. One of my colleagues sent me a picture and said, "Oh my God, is this your snake?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." Like, yes, that's my snake. I guess we're happy to have him back. We'll see what his future is going to be. Maybe he needs his own Instagram account now, but they're pretty boring, so I don't know what it would do on the Instagram account.
But I'll tell you, Dwight, for a pretty boring guy, he's caused quite the stir today. But the gas station that he was found at was actually 3.5 kilometers from the Sinella's home, so he didn't make it that far. She says the plan is now to take him home for a bath, but she wants to thank the people who rescued him today. But she's worried that he may be used to the freedom now, so they're hoping he still likes his home. And in case anyone is wondering, snakes are legal pets in the city. They just can't surpass 9 feet, and they can't be poisonous or venomous, Dwight.
Yeah, we appreciate that. No poisonous or venomous snake pets. I would say maybe a little cute, but I wouldn't go as far as beautiful, Taylor. Thank you for that, though. A pair of long-lost brothers say the federal government is preventing them from reuniting on Canadian soil. An Oshawa man recently made contact with a brother he never knew existed. His brother is a South African citizen living in Asia who can't get a visa to visit him in Canada. Nick Boisvert is on the story for us, so take us through this tangled mess here, Nick.
Yeah, Dwight, so a story like this obviously goes back a long time. Both men are in their 50s, but we're going to start this one last year. That's when Paul Ackerman got a message on his WhatsApp from a man with some interesting documents, things like old adoption papers from South Africa, what looked like his mother's birth certificate as well. Anyway, it all suggested that this mystery person might be his older brother. He was skeptical at first, but they started talking and eventually agreed to go down to meet in Las Vegas. When they were there, it confirmed what was actually happening.
Was when I saw his eyes and his mouth, that was my mom. He's got my mom's eyes and my mom's lips. My mom and dad or brother passed away years ago, so this was like a blessing. Like, wow, I got a brother, and they was like, oh wow. It was like my mom left me a gift.
So they had that brief meeting in Vegas last year where both men can travel, but Ackerman wanted to host him here at his home in Oshawa. It would sort of prevent that rushed experience they had. They remembered talking over a busy breakfast buffet in Las Vegas, not exactly the best place to get to know your brother, who was until that point a stranger. So the brother applied for a visa. He says he included more than 100 pages of documents, a lot of which we have seen here at CBC, explaining the whole story, explaining their connection. But he just found out this summer that his visa application was denied.
It is either mean-spirited in the extreme not to give me a 5-day visa to visit my brother, who I've searched for 55 years, or someone was just grossly incompetent and didn't read the application properly.
Yeah, you have to feel for them. He was adopted, found his birth family, and now Ottawa rejected this application. Why, did they say?
Yes, we've gotten some limited information. They can't tell us sort of the whole story, but in a statement, the immigration ministry said Mr. Luck did not appear well established in his country of residence and that his purpose of visit appeared vague and poorly documented. The government also told us that it wasn't convinced Luck would leave Canada after the trip. Both brothers say that's absurd. The older brother runs a travel company in Asia. He showed them return tickets that he had already bought, but for now it looks like the decision is final, and Dwight, they're going to have to figure out other places to meet up in the future.
That's too bad. Thank you for that, Nick. Remember, if you have a story you would like us to look into, we would love to hear from you. Just send us an email at torontotips@cbc.ca. There will be some political theater tonight on the Detroit stage. That's where the second Democratic presidential debate will take place. Over 2 nights, 20 candidates will make their case to stay in the race to face off against Donald Trump next year. Lindsay Duncombe now with more from Washington.
What people will be looking for tonight is the showdown between the progressives in the race. We're talking about Elizabeth Warren, the senator from Massachusetts, and Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont. Both of these candidates are running in the progressive lane in this race. They're reaching out to voters who want to see policy changes in the United States that are very dramatic, including moving toward government-funded health care, government-funded tuition, and supporting the idea of raising taxes on the wealthy in order to deal with the issues of income inequality in this country. There are 20 candidates participating in these debates, but the rules change when we look ahead to the next round of debates, the third round. At that time, in order to stay in the mix, candidates need to reach a higher threshold when it comes to both where they are in polling and to where they are in donations, specifically donations that come from individual donors. So as we watch this play out over the next couple of nights, what we'll see is those lower tier candidates really trying to have a breakout moment, something that goes viral, something that resonates with the public so that they can stay in the game. And the other thing to watch for here tonight and in all the debates to come is what is the strategy when it comes to dealing with Donald Trump? Because remember, these men and women are auditioning to be the person who will stand on a debate stage with the President of the United States. And what we've seen since the last debate is Donald Trump really increasing the divisive talk, particularly when it comes to issues of race. And will these candidates decide to use their precious time in these debates to engage directly on that and attack the president, or do they choose to really focus on their own policies, thinking that that would distinguish them from the rest of this crowded field? So, lots to watch for. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Washington.
A member of one of the wealthiest royal dynasties in the Middle East was in court today in England. Princess Haya bint Al Hussein is married to the ruler of Dubai. She is seeking a protection order and trying to gain wardship of their children. As Cameron McIntosh tells us, the case has forced public scrutiny on an intensely private royal court.
Princess Haya bint Al Hussein has applied for a forced marriage protection order in relation to one of 2 children she has with Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates and the ruler of Dubai. This comes after the princess fled to London, apparently fearing for her life.
Hello,
My name is Latifa Al Maktoum.
In February 2018, one of Mohammed's other children from another one of his 6 wives, 33-year-old Princess Latifa, fled Dubai. She was later captured in a military raid on a yacht. Later, this video emerged of her claiming to have been imprisoned and abused by her father's regime.
And if you are watching this video, it's not such a good thing. Either I'm dead or I'm in a very, very, very bad situation.
Now, it's alleged Princess Haya learned new facts about the Latifa story and no longer feels safe in Dubai. A forced marriage protection order helps if someone says they've been forced into a marriage, according to British legal definitions. Princess Haya also applied for a non-molestation order, which is to protect from threats. Radha Sterling is with the advocacy group Detained in Dubai.
Latifa is a daughter of Sheikh Mohammed, and Sheikh Mohammed is seeking custody of children to a different wife of his, obviously, Princess Haya. But his treatment of Latifa is going to be a factor that Princess Haya will bring into the courtroom in England.
Now, both Princess Haya and Sheikh Mohammed have deep ties to the UK and the British royal family, largely through horse racing. Should Mohammed seek Haya's return, it could pose a diplomatic problem for Britain, which has close ties to the UAE, a key economic and military partner in the Persian Gulf. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, London.
Stay with us, Colette's back with a look at your long-range forecast after the break. Heavy rain taking a heavy toll on roads in Antigonish, Nova Scotia. A driver caught this collapse on his cell phone last night. It had been raining heavily in the area. Drivers, of course, being told to stay away from this particular road. Well, partly because it's not really there anymore, Colette. We had a downpour here, but nothing like that.
No, and we think we've got road repair problems out there, too. Can you imagine trying to put that one back together? Yeah, we're moving into a pattern, speaking of some of the wet conditions we had, especially the heavier rains we saw earlier in the day. We're moving into a drier pattern now, and we're going to hold on to it for a few days. So still a few isolated cells out there I was showing you earlier on the radar, and we'll get back to that. We'll circle back to that. But the new pattern is primarily for dry conditions, which means we get quite a bit of sunshine over the next few days, too. And it's going to warm up again, start to get a little not only warmer, but the humidity starting to rise as we head towards the holiday weekend coming up. But That all makes sense, right? Record height for this date in history since 1999. It was set 34.6 degrees there. And look at the record low, 1968. Can you imagine if last night it had been 3.9 degrees? Yeah, we didn't have to contend with that, but we are seeing a cooler air mass moving in, just not like that. And it shows you pretty nicely here when we look at what the wind directions are. So we were into a southerly flow out ahead of the cold front. And when you see the winds, the sustained winds in the current direction, if you look at the arrows that they've turned more towards the north, still westerly there for Hamilton, kind of shows you where that front is and where it's passing. And then we get into that northerly flow and it will shift a little bit between north, northwest, and around, but for the next few days, that's kind of going to be the direction that we'll be seeing, and that's why it's a little more comfortable in terms of the dew points, too. Just pointing out that there are a few cells still out there, and for another hour or two, we'll see a few of these popping up, or the risk of, but this one kind of tracking there, affecting portions of the shoreline there in Pickering, but moving out over the lake and then dissipating. So into the overnight, high pressure begins to dig in. It has a little trouble there in southwestern Ontario due to a system to the south and an isolated shower to the northwest of the city. Potential there, very, very slim potential into tomorrow afternoon, and that's why I'm primarily just going with that dry forecast. Temperatures starting to come down for the overnight lows, so we'll go with more towards the upper teens, but they're going to come down a little bit further from there, and getting into some variable skies at times tomorrow, but the high around 27 degrees, so seasonal. That's where we should be at this time of year. You can add a few degrees on for a humidex, but not much. A little cooler, more comfortable even then on Thursday. Friday it starts to build again, and here comes the humidity with a slim chance of shower. Slim one, Dwight, as we head into Saturday.
Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
After the break, the story of how Mercedes, the obese dog from Thailand, is getting a new, healthier life here in Canada, and the special connection she has to her foster parent. You won't want to miss this one. We'll be right back. It is quite the tale, an overweight dog from Thailand who made it all the way to Canada. At one point, it was so obese she couldn't stand. Now she's healthier. And here in Canada, Laura Osmond has the details on her journey.
You gonna run? Come, run. By all accounts, Mercedes has had a rough life. After her owner died, she would wander a Bangkok food market where vendors would feed her fried scraps.
The problem is they pretty much almost fed her to death.
A dog her size should typically weigh about 40 pounds. At her heaviest, Mercedes was weighing in at 120. When she was too big to walk, the vendors would bring the food to her. The dog eventually was rescued in Thailand, but Mercedes' problems weren't over. She lost 60 pounds, but she's now covered in several pounds of loose skin, weighing her down and making her prone to sores and bladder infections. Genevieve Smith is one of several independent volunteers that work to bring the dog to Ottawa, where a local vet has agreed to take her case. Everything is being paid for using individual donations.
They'll probably take at least 2 surgeries, one for her back end and then 1 or 2 for the sides.
Come here, pretty girl. Her Canadian foster mom, Daisy Trail, agreed to take her in after hearing her story. Trail underwent gastric bypass several years ago and lost 100 pounds herself.
I can relate to her and what it's like to, be heavy and, not very mobile, not energetic, just not really loving life at all. And I think what spoke to me is that I can't imagine having all this extra skin and not being able to have the right mobility even after losing all that weight.
Even after all the work she's put in, losing half her body weight, she still has another 10 pounds to go before she can have her surgery. And that means exercise. Come on.
Mercedes' regimen includes multiple walks per day. Initially, it was a foreign concept.
I don't know if it's that she wasn't sure what a walk was or just, unsure of even what grass was, to be honest. But she was pretty hesitant and we had to kind of drag her a little bit and whatnot. But now she just loves going out for walks.
There you go.
As for why volunteers have gone to all the trouble to rescue a dog a world away, Smith says she gets that question a lot.
People have the same arguments about foreign aid and things like that, right? Like, why don't we fix all our problems at home first? And I think it doesn't have to be one or the other. We can help all these sweet animals from all over the world, and they're all deserving of a better life.
Volunteers hope Mercedes finds that better life here in Canada. Once her recovery is complete, they'll begin the search for a new forever home. Laura Osmond, CBC News, Ottawa.
See you, kitty cat. There's a cougar watching me right there.
Listen to this. A Vancouver Island woman has the heavy metal band Metallica to thank for saving her from a cougar. Dee Gallant and her dog were on an evening walk when Gallant said she felt like she was being watched. She realized a cougar was stalking them and wouldn't break its gaze. So she selected the song Don't Tread on Me on her phone and blasted it. The cougar immediately retreated into the woods. Doesn't like Metallica, I guess. Stay with us. We'll be right back. this is what your GTA looks like today, thanks to the traveling Torontonian on Instagram for his shot of the Humber Bay Bridge. And remember, get your photos to us by posting them on Twitter or Instagram with the hashtag CBCYourGTA. And we'll try to air some of them on the show. We've got about 30 seconds left, but not a lot to talk about. A few nice days ahead.
Yeah, we've got a nice string that we're going to tie together, and we're going to try and roll into the holiday weekend that way too, especially with Saturday Caribbean Carnival. And so we're hoping we can do
I'll be down
okay
there jumping up. Yep.
Tonight, though, 18 partly cloudy skies, and then tomorrow we will find a few clouds at times for sure. It'll be kind of variable through the day, but 27 for the high, only a little bit of humidity, much more comfortable. It's going to be nice.
That's the way we like it. Thumbs up for that. That's our show for tonight. Thank you for watching. Mike Wise has your next local newscast at 11. We'll see you back here tomorrow.